Alright, so this is the third poem in the Still Life concept album. This one is called Benighted. Now, benighted means to be overcome with darkness. And this, of course, does not necessarily have to be literal darkness. We saw at the end of Godhead's Lament, after the Persona and Melinda make love, that the realization of what she's done and what the town and the townspeople, who are very religious people, what they're likely to do to her, that realization has dawned on her, and that is the darkness that is being referred to in this poem. Benighted by Opeth. Come into this night, here we'll be gone, so far away from our weak and crumbling lives. Come into this night when days are done, lost and astray in what's vanished from your eyes. What came and distorted your sight saw you benighted by your fright. Come into this night, your plight alone. Carry your weight, you are flawed as all of us. Come into this night, your only home. It's never too late to repent, suffer the loss. What came and distorted your sight saw you benighted by your fright. What came and distorted your sight saw you benighted by your fright. Come into this night when you're able to undo your deeds and atone with your lonely soul. Once you're into this night, all minds are stable. Forget all your needs, lose the grip of all control. So the first quote we're looking at is the first 4 lines from Benighted. Come into this night, here we'll be gone, so far away from our weak and crumbling lives. Techniques we have are rhyme between night and lives, and hyperbole, by saying that our lives are weak and crumbling. Now the effect, and essentially what this poem is about, is the persona is attempting to persuade Melinda to leave the town and go with him. Right? He's come for her and her alone. And obviously, the whole romantic love and that sort of thing. Right? They've made love in the second poem in Godhead's Lament. And now he's saying, look, clearly we love each other. Come with me. Don't worry about the town. Lost and astray in what's vanished from our eyes. The techniques are visual imagery, because he's describing what he sees in her eyes. And then personification. Right? Something has vanished from her eyes. That's the personification there. We don't necessarily know what that thing is. It's only ever implied, but through the evidence that we have, we could probably work it out. So the persona has seen the feeling that she has for him leave her eyes, as at the end of Godhead's Lament, the realization of what the town will do to her has dawned on her. So he's urging her to come with him to bring her out of dwelling on that, right? If you come with me, you don't have to worry about what the town are going to do to you, because you're not going to be in the town. What came and distorted your sight saw you benighted by your fright. Techniques we have assonance with the sight benighted fright, that long I vowel sound. And this is the beginning of the motif. How guilt causes that darkness, how guilt causes that fright, that feeling of being scared. Now the effect, so the realization of what their actions will mean for her has caused her mood to become dark, as she is frightened of what the townspeople are going to do to her. She is scared to return to the town, but she feels that she needs to, because it's her home, it's her family, and all of those things. Come into this night, your plight alone. Carry your weight, you are flawed as all of us. Our techniques here. The first one is anaphora. Now, anaphora is where a certain word or phrase is repeated throughout the poem, and it acts as a kind of anchor for what's written and the themes, the ideas, the points being made in the poem. Now, to explain high modality, so there are two kinds of modality, high and low. Low modality means that it is open for interpretation. So instead of you are flawed, it's like you might be flawed. Like most of us, it's neither here nor there. Whereas high modality, you are flawed as all of us, right? You have flaws, we all have flaws. There's no room for interpretation there. It just is. That's high modality. All right, the effect. So the persona is continuing to try and persuade Melinda by saying that what they feel for each other, what they've just done at last, that's all normal, right? Everyone feels that way. She shouldn't be punished for it when they can be together, right? They both love each other. They should just go and be with each other. It's never too late to repent, suffer the loss. Next we have biblical allusion with the repent. Plus we know from the two poems before this that Melinda is very religious and comes from a very religious town. So any sort of religious vocabulary like repent is biblical allusion in these poems. And the second one is meter. That's the order of syllables. So, effect. It is not too late for her to ask forgiveness from God. She doesn't need it from the townspeople. Right? The only person that she should ask it from is God, much like what the persona has been doing since having left the town, since being exiled from the town. She doesn't need it from the townspeople. That's what the suffer the loss means, right? Forget about them. If you leave them, we're going to lose them. It's not that big a deal. What came and distorted your sight, saw you benighted by your fright. Our techniques, we have repetition, right? These two lines are repeated word for word from earlier. And the second one is structure. Now, reason to bring up structure. So, the first time we see this is between two 8-line stanzas. And then we get this repeated twice. And then we get a final 8-line stanza. Now, that structure with these two lines sort of disrupting those 8-line stanzas where the persona is trying to be more persuasive, is that this emphasizes how the consequences that await her are scaring her. Right, so this disruption of these two lines is what brings this up. It also shows the struggle that Melinda is having between wanting to go with the persona and not wanting to leave the town and her family and everything that she knows. Right, so this is the main struggle of the poem. Coming to this night when you're able to undo your deeds and atone with your lonely soul. Now, techniques we have, the first one is euphony. Now, euphony, similar to assonance, where assonance is a repeated vowel sound within words. Euphony is where there's repeated long vowel sound, or where there are a sequence of long vowel sounds within words. Right, so in this case, to undo your deeds and atone with your lonely soul. Right, those long vowel sounds, that's what creates the euphony. And secondly, we have the refrain. Now, a refrain is a repeated phrase, much like what we've got with motif and repetition and anaphora, right? They're all sort of explaining the same thing, different techniques for the same thing. Now, the effect. So we're highlighting not necessarily the coming to this night, but the second line, right? When you're able. Because that shows that the persona is relenting in his persuasion, right? He's seeing how hard it is for Melinda to decide whether or not to go with him or stay with the town and stay with family and all of that sort of thing, right? So he's trying to help make Melinda feel more at ease, right? He's saying when you're able, when you're comfortable to come with me, come with me. Once you're into this night, all minds are stable. Forget all your needs, lose the grip of all control. Our techniques here, first of all, it switches to future tense. Right? Instead of come into this night, instead of it being present tense, it's saying once you're into this night. So once you're with me, once we're gone. And then we have premonition, right? Which is the basically the effect of the future tense. Right? So once you've come with me, when you have come with me, this is how you're going to feel. Right? So the persona is promising that going with him will ease her of her guilt. And she won't need to be so strict on herself because she's going to be away from the church, away from the town, away from all those people. And he's implying that she will be freer in going with him. Now, in addition to the analysis that we have just done, as I was analysing the poem and going through the quotes, these things came up repeatedly. But we had to highlight those other things. Now, with that in mind, pretty much all of these examples, all of these quotes are examples for symbolism and dichotomy, the two techniques that are here. They are also examples and quotes for the effect, which is what I'm about to explain. So, first of all, symbolism of night and darkness. Now, normally night and darkness are symbolic of negative things, right? They're symbolic of evil, of death, of the unknown, right? And all of those things. However, we get repeated, come into this night, right? And by the end, he's saying, once you're into this night, you're going to be free. You're going to be free from the light, right? Because you can get away with whatever you want in the dark, right? It's a positive thing. Which is where we have the dichotomy. Now, dichotomy is where there are two specific themes and they're sort of at odds with each other. Now, unlike juxtaposition or oxymoron, where the two opposing things create one image, in a dichotomy, those opposing things are opposite, right? They're not creating a cohesive image necessarily. They're opposite to each other and they're creating a source of tension in the text. Now, although it's never mentioned specifically, obviously, by trying to persuade her to come into the night, then he's trying to persuade her to leave the day, to leave the light, right? And this comes back to the symbolism where normally night and darkness represents negative and bad and evil and all of those things. Light normally represents good and positive and hope and purity and all of those things, right? But Opeth have subverted those stereotypical symbols, right? Instead, the light, the daylight, the day, all of that is all the negative stuff because it's so strict, right? Because you're in the light, everyone is able to see exactly what you're doing and they're all able to judge and then mete out consequence as they see fit. Once you're in the night, you're free of all of that. The only person you have to answer to it is yourself. And therefore, all that scrutiny, all that judgment, all those consequences don't exist.